Yeah, so this year my school life's been going pretty well. I think that, obviously in the times of COVID, it's difficult to find a healthy work-life balance. But I think that it took some time to adjust, but with the help and support of friends and family and of the wonderful staff here, the wonderful support I've gotten from Brown over the years, I think that work and schoolwork and life have been pretty easy to manage. I think it all just boiled down to finding, a rigid schedule for myself, finding some type of stability, and I think Brown really helped me set up the foundations for that type of, future long-term planning. Definitely time management. Yeah, planning and time management. Yeah, I was extremely pleased when I saw my early decision acceptance. I think if I were to be more specific, it felt very rewarding. It felt like a lot of the time investment, a lot of the work I put into, the various activities I've invested myself into, it felt like it finally came to fruition. So I think honestly, it was a fantastic feeling. Yeah, so the Brown process has been really helpful, or had been really helpful when I was applying. I think the wonderful part about it was they took you through the beginning to end. So at the beginning, at least I think that the college admission process, and I think it's generally kind of known to be the college admission process is kind of ambiguous. It's steep learning curve. It's not like you're given a wealth of information going into it, and I think that from the beginning Brown was very helpful in clearly laying out what needed to be done, clearly laying out the process and the procedure, and I think that in and of itself was a huge help. But it wasn't just that. I think in the process of applying for college, Brown was there each step of the way. Not only did they help me tailor and tighten up I guess what they would like to call the whole package of your application, but I think it gave it a sense of direction, and I think that's super important. They helped facilitate a sense of direction, gave it a sense of purpose. That was super important. I think that the help came in the form of helping edit my essays once in a while, helping me with my ideation, thinking of different topics to write about. And I think with Brown Academy's immense experience in the past, that definitely helped me expedite my own process, helped me figure out what I really, what's most effective to convey to people reading your application. What are the things that traditionally have worked, and just generally how to write an interesting essay about myself. And even after that process, it wasn't just specifically the Common App, but also helped me Brown also helped me very much with supplements as well, a lot of the school-specific works. I think Brown's experience really shined in that field, because they've had a wealth of experience helping students in the past apply to a variety of different schools. They know, I guess, what each school kind of looks for, the culture of each school, things that you can't typically find out through the internet. Things that you could definitely tell only comes from experience, and I think that really helped me with my supplements too. It helped me create a unified, complete package, but also one tailored enough for each school. And so, at the very end, in terms of not just applications, just generally getting a sense of the process, like I said before. It also strategizing, long-term strategizing about, the game plan for college apps, how many you should apply, where you should apply. These are all just big questions that no one really answers for you going into the process. And I think that, the combination of all these things is what made, at least in my opinion, Brown so helpful for my college application process. Yeah, It's a tough one. Honestly, I think the most difficult part, though, like I said before, it's more finding that foundational work-life balance. I think that especially when you were young, when I was, I guess, in high school, it's difficult. It's difficult finding a good, healthy balance. And I think that coming to Brown really helped me figure that out for myself, at least. It was not just the process of them telling you what to do, but I think it's a mutual process of dialogue, at least in my experience, figuring out what is most effective for me, tailoring the experience for myself as a student. And I think that was definitely the most helpful in working around that issue. And I think that having solved that work-life balance, time management, I guess, obstacle earlier on in high school was really foundational for me in college too. I mean, having established that now, before, now I think I'm much more prepared just to handle the everyday challenges of college. The heavy workload, I guess like living by yourself in college. I think, it's definitely, at least time management back then at least was the most challenging. Yeah, so in high school I competed in the Chemistry Olympiad. Brown Academy helped me very, very much in the preparation for it. So I guess just to explain what the Chemistry Olympiad is, so for a variety of different like science subjects such as biology, physics, and chemistry, there is a standardized test given out by a national representing organization. It's specifically for the Chemistry Olympiad, it's the American Chemical Association. I think. Or society. It's but generally the test is oriented towards high school students. Just test general aptitude for chemistry concepts. These concepts includes things that you learn in the classroom, so things you learn in I guess like high school about general chemistry, the most like basic foundational things, and it goes all the way up to, once you advance further into the rounds, it goes up to organic chemistry, physical chemistry, and more advanced subfields. And so having stated that it does go beyond the average general chemistry curriculum, Brown Academy was extremely helpful in providing the resources necessary to study for those advanced subjects. Because in the classroom, you're obviously only exposed so much to general chemistry. To be specific, you're exposed to the field of general chemistry, and general chemistry is very helpful only up to a certain point on the Chemistry Olympiad. After that, the Chemistry Olympiad expects you to know, like I said before, a lot of different diverse and advanced topics that are not taught in school. And without the help of Brown Academy, I think that I wouldn't have been able to find at least the resources necessary to gain a solid understanding that allowed me to perform well, especially in the national round of the exam. Because for the Chemistry Olympiad, it's not only one exam, but it's divided into multiple parts. After you acquire or earn a minimum passing score, you qualify for the next round. And so, qualifying for the first round was difficult. It required studying, but those subjects were you could pick up in high school. But then afterwards, you can take national tests. If you want to score, for example, 1 to 20, 21 to 50, or 51 to 150, these higher echelon brackets, you kind of have to learn these extra materials for the national exam, which is through the help of Mr. and Mrs. Kim, through the help of the various I guess faculty here that really helped teach us and instill that knowledge of advanced chemical concepts, and generally just the resources here. That was foundational. So I like to be generally pretty systematic in terms of how I prepare for exams. It depends on the type of exams. For at least as far as I remember, for school subject exams, it required before I would take I guess a practice exam, I would study the material, go over the textbook, go over all the necessary handouts, make sure I understand it well. Whether that means reading over or annotating, I did whatever I needed to do to get a solid grasp, and then I would take a practice test. I would take multiple practice tests. After that, I would go over my mistakes, in reference to the material I'd been studying earlier. So that's that's very general for my subjects exams in high school. I guess for more standardized tests, such as the SAT, I just took a lot of practice exams. It was a lot of practice exams. It was a lot of focusing on the parts that I was not particularly the best at least at first. For me personally, that was in some of the math sections. I knew because from Mr. and Mrs. Kim's advice, from the faculty's advice, that practice, I think, and mastery of the material is essential. So I knew that it was a matter of how much effort I was willing to put into the process of studying. I personally am a strong believer that no matter how much someone else can push you, I think at the end of the day it's very much about your own commitment to studying. And so I knew that if I put in the work, I could get the results. And so I dedicated myself to focusing on the parts that I was necessarily not amazing at. And then luckily, well, I don't think luckily, I think as I've said before, part of the process is that you do better. And I did better after studying harder and committing myself more towards studying for the parts I wasn't great at. So basically SAT was just a lot of taking practice test after practice test, taking everything I could and taking full advantage of the wonderful and abundant resources here at Brown, making sure that I am utilizing the resources of the faculty here at Brown, and they have many. Like they have tutors for every single aspect of the exam, and so with that there, it'd be a shame not to go and ask them for help. And I tried to take full advantage of all those resources, and I ended up performing pretty well. As for other exams, for like the Olympiad I mentioned before, that was also a similar process. It was constantly refreshing myself with the material in the textbook. I read the we used the Zoomdal textbook. I read that front to back. Also listening into the specific Chemistry Olympiad lectures that Mr. and Mrs. Kim provided through the wonderful staff here. They're all extremely knowledgeable, and so I would listen very intently into lectures. I would read the textbook. I also committed myself very much to taking practice tests, going over my mistakes, same process as I've described before. And I think overall that commitment to studying, commitment to actually getting the results, I think that was definitely I guess like my main mindset going into most of these exams. And I mean, thankfully it worked out, and I think it really does just prove that I think real commitment generates the real results, and that's something I've learned here at Brown Academy the most. Yeah, so the Earth Science Olympiad was another one of these like science Olympiads that I participated in. I took this one after my Chemistry Olympiad, so there was like a little bit of parallel time where I was studying for both exams. As far as I remember from my experience, it again followed much of the same process. We went through the materials provided on the Earth Science Olympiad website. Granted, the Earth Science was also something I was interested in since like middle school, like late middle school when we had to take it. I always found it fascinating. So then when I learned of the opportunity, I began looking on the website along with the other kids here that were interested. And then we bought the textbook provided or listed. I read it front to back. And then after reading it, just a matter of doing provided practice exams. And then we had a tutor here that tutored Earth Science, and then she was very helpful. Again, in the same way, to cover gaps in knowledge that necessarily weren't covered within the textbook. And then so I think a combination of reading, listening to tutored lectures, and going over practice exams, I think again, all in all, these three just reflect commitment, dedication to hard work. And then we ended up doing very well at the Earth Science Olympiad. Yeah, I think the best piece of advice I could give would definitely be commitment. I think that having that goal of wanting to end up somewhere requires not only just a vision of being there, but it requires a real commitment, and a commitment that doesn't last for one day, but a commitment that's willing to take you, I guess, through many months of hard work. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that it's easy. It's not easy. It's very difficult. But that's why I'm very thankful for Brown, because I think that without having them, the journey would have been even more difficult. I think that no one is going to make it easy, but then I think going to Brown really helped me facilitate the type of commitment and dedication that was really necessary to one, like I said before, study and prepare for all these various exams and competitions I participated in, and two, the commitment to really adhere to a strict, strategic time schedule. And I say strategic because I think that it really requires a lot of long-term planning. Long-term planning, again, that was very much supported by the faculty and Mr. and Mrs. Kim. I think that at the end of the day, the combination of having that commitment and having the resources at Brown really helped me personally. And so I think that, but at the end of the day, they can only provide so much. I think that it requires a bit of both, like a real commitment on the student's part and also a willingness to adhere to the experience that Brown has to offer. I think it's a combination of both. And I think that if you are committed, if you really want to go and get that spot, then I think that coming to Brown is a fantastic choice, especially in light of all the wonderful resources they provide, but most importantly, the type of foundational ideas, the foundational habits that they build, I think is invaluable.